Let's start about shore jigging. Let's go. Okay, so back then I was using. Okay, let me share about my story on shore jigging in the islands. Okay, so basically back then I was using a very light setup. I was using like a average, the luring rods that is how's that called? That is about 7 feet, 10, 20, that type of rating that you actually use for luring and also for 2-month fishing, all this type of stuff. So back then, I was using those type of lighter setup, and I realized one thing in the islands, right? The terrain here is quite unforgivable. So basically, if you hit a fish far out, okay, when you hit a fish far out, sometimes the chance of you landing with a shorter rod, a lesser backbone rod, right, you tend to actually lose the fish. Like maybe 100% of the time, okay, when I hit fish, right, okay, so maybe out of 10 times, I maybe land 3 times. So that's the amount of land rate that I get when I'm using a shorter and softer rod lah. So that's when I slowly upgrade and try new things. I use a sea bass rod, all this type of stuff to actually play this the terrain here. So basically in Singapore, okay, it's like man-made structures. Okay, man-made structures. So it's like a breaker. Then after that, there will be like a first drop. Sometimes the drop, it can be very steep, about 20 meters down or 14 meters down, and also the reefs, the front reef part, right, is sometimes can be up to 20 over meters. So I mean, if I have a drawing board, I can draw for you. But the thing is, that's why I need the rod leverage. And when you see, when I'm fishing, right, I'm actually pumping up instead of actually pumping like that. Like sometimes people fish, they just pump, then they sideways pump like that. But I have to actually lift my rod tip up to actually get the leverage in case the fish actually swim towards me, and also to swim across the reef. Yeah, so that's why I actually have a longer rod nowadays, longer and steeper rod nowadays. Yeah, so okay, so there are a few things that I think that is necessary to have a higher percentage of hitting the fishes lah. So basically, what I do, right, usually I'll actually go find the fish, go and hunt for the fish lah. So and also nowadays, like using, okay, like that there are light jigs and also heavy jigs. Okay, so light jigs, heavy jigs. The chances of you snagging, right? A lot of people think, snagging, the heavy jigs are drop, sangkut. Their first mentality is heavy jigs. When they cast far out, drop, then they will sangkut. Higher chance of sangkut. But actually, right, the chances of you sangkut, right, with a heavy jig is lesser because you get more sensitivity. Yeah. So when you have sensitivity, then you can actually understand, you can actually feel. Because most time, right, when you're using a light jig, right, when the thing actually, the current push, right, sometimes you cannot feel the jig touch the bottom. Actually, your line is wrapping around the reef already. So when your line is wrapping around a reef, right, then that's when mishaps happen. When the fish take, the line should reverse and all these kind of things. So it weakens the line when the line wrap around the reefs. Yeah. So lighter jigs, that is for me, I feel have more sangkut lah, and I feel that heavier jigs is way better chance of you having a less. And the thing is, the heavier jigs, the heavier tackle. Then when you sangkut, sometimes when you pull, right, the thing come out instead of actually how's that called? Instead of actually you bursting the line, then you have to retie again and all this kind of stuff. So what I want to do for myself, right, like when I'm fishing in the Southern Islands, I want to minimize the chances of me snagging, then increase my time fishing so that I could hit more fish. So it's like basically increase the percentage of time fishing than tying line. So that's how I maximize my fishing around the islands. Yeah. So yeah. What else?
I mean to reiterate what you just say, I think our farmer just reach out to him because the main point of this event today is just to keep casting, you know, land something. Any questions, direct to him. Which is why I say split into 3 groups lah. So if you want to talk, then the next one. Kelvin.
Kelvin, you want to do
Your short jigging?
yeah?
You all really don't want to find out why, because I think it's the only, Ryan is the only one, right, that uses
The
so
pure-
heavy. Yeah, I think Patrick has a question, yeah.
How do you retrieve normally for big jig?
Okay.
Fast or dip and drop?
Okay, actually depends on how deep the water is lah. For me, and which column of the strike zone I want to target. Sometimes the fish don't really want to hit at the bottom, right? And usually at the mid column or whatever, I'll just do a slight jig, let it fall to the column again, then slight jig and fall to. But most of the time when I'm playing bottom, I'll just do a fast jig, then let it sink back to the bottom, and fast jig, then let it sink back to the bottom, and fast jig back to the bottom. Because mainly I'm targeting reef fishes and all. I mean, I like to aim rock fishes, so I usually play at the bottom. So for me, I enjoy doing a bit of fast jig and let it sink back to the bottom. Other than that, if I'm playing pelagic or what, most of the time, you know, when you're straight drinking, right, the fish takes. But if you want to just specifically aim the middle column, then you could actually just do a huge jig, let it fall, huge jig, let it fall to maintain the water column. Yeah. So if you know that the fish are there at this column of water that day, then you'll play along to that water column. Yeah. So
Actually,
What kind of weight for heavy weights?
what do you mean?
What kind of weight?
what kind of weights do you use? Like,
Oh,
how
okay.
heavy is the jig?
Okay. Yesterday I was using 150. Okay, so from I've used
150.
yeah. so I've used from maybe light jigs like 14 grams all the way to 28, 30, 40, 60. All the way until 150. Okay, so the difference. Okay, so actually a lot of people say, oh, sometimes heavier jigs are sensitive. Yeah, I mean it's sensitive lah, but with the setup and all this, with the line and all these sort of things, what I like actually, if line, right, fishing line, is very important thing for jigging also, because okay, if you get those that are coated, right, that they are coated, when the current moves, right, it brings the line together. So when it brings the line together, that's when you get layang. You know, you layang the thing. So best is actually get those that are, you know, like just like not so much floating. Yeah. So that's when you can actually penetrate the water better. So and also it depends when you're jigging. Sometimes when you cannot feel the bottom, right, it's line to jig ratio, line to jig, and also your rod. All these stuff play a part. Everything play a part, but just that the line to jig. So basically, imagine you are using I'm using a 40 gram jig, and I'm using a PE3, PE4. Then the times of most of the time, right, when you are using this type of comparison, this type of pairing, right, the sensitivity will not be there. So you have to match the ratio of the jig and the line. So basically, right now, usually for me, right, if I'm pairing a PE2, PE2.5, I'm using a 40 gram. The best for PE2.5, I'll use like 60 gram. So to enhance the sensitivity of the support, the feel when it touches the bottom. So for me now, I'm using a PE5, right? So I'm going up towards 120, 150, all this down range. 100, 120, 150 down range. So it compensates, and it when it touches the bottom, you can actually feel it way better. Yeah. So.
You're my question why he actually uses so heavy, right? Because I fish a lot with him. So I've seen him, right? If you all think that his CR is really crazy, you count the number of fishes that he actually lost. Using lighter tackle, right? I've first hand I see him lose the fish, right? It's good fight, and it's just I don't know why, gonna reef or what. That's why his setup actually goes heavier and heavier, so that you know he tries to find a balance whether actually with using heavier tackle, longer leverage, whether he can actually land the fish or not. But really, I've seen him hit. The hit rate is actually very high. Using big profile jigs and everything is actually very high, quite high. Just that the landing part is really not so easy lah in terms of our local waters, southern areas whereby you know all is reef. You know, it's really the challenge. It's really challenging to land a fish here lah. So really, I think for those who actually land a fish here, I think it's really good job to you all. I think it's really boils down to a bit of luck. Okay, sometimes you really do need luck, and also the tackle. The tackle will give you the added advantage of whether you actually can
have the leverage,
have the leverage to pound
power
the fish out
over the
ASAP.
fish.
Because sometimes when the rod is too strong, so the fish swim in, right?
Yeah.
Swim in, then sanko you. So
Yeah.
this is the problem that you always encounter,
Yeah.
right? So that's why you try to upgrade his tackle and see which one is the best, most optimal way to fish around southern shores. It's really not easy one. You fish with him long enough, you will know that it's really tough. How many times you spend fishing in 1 week last time? When you are free when you are free.
4 to 5 times a week.
Yeah, 4 to 5 times a week, you imagine. That's why you see the CR is also crazy. So really, I think it's about the time spent on the fishing. It's really not, you might see that, oh wow, Ryan always catch fish, but you got see how many times he ice cream. Yeah, how many times we ice cream. It's normal really to ice cream in Singapore. But really, we think we need to have faith. Fishing in Singapore, you really need to have faith.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You guys can try later you set out.
Later you all can
Just
try.
by just by me holding this, I'll give up already.
How many kilo?
Yeah.
How many kilo?
I don't know, I think one. How much are you also using heavy?
Oh, there's another guy. There's another play big game use BC.
Yeah, BC,
Ahmad,
another special.
yeah, another crazy guy.
So not just the rod and reel. Okay, the reel itself, I usually use. I like. Okay. So there's no best of both worlds. Okay, there's no speed. There's no speed and power together. So basically, right, for me, okay, when I hit a fish and the fish swim in, right, what I need is actually the high speed reel to actually crank back the fish. So and also but if the fish is swimming out, I'll prefer a power gear. But we cannot get best of both worlds. So I actually increase the size of the reel for a faster speed, and also I get more power. So that's when it helps me both
Balance it out.
to balance it out. So sometimes, I mean, that's why I actually choose a heavier setup to also so-called increase my chances of landing. No point for me personally. No point I hit a fish, right, then I burst it. Then for me I feel like I defeat the purpose of fishing lah. I want to land the fish. That's the most important thing. So to hit a fish and land the fish. So I mean, yeah. So
Yeah, you have a question.
Okay, since you use a heavy setup, right?
yeah,
So when you short jig,
yeah,
is it more mellow jig for it to flow, more relaxed?
yeah.
I think the smaller setup. What's your take?
I see. What's the question again?
Like you use a latter setup, right? When you cast,
Yeah, it's very fast.
so for this longer, got the time to be mellow, relaxed.
Is there a
Can
difference
feel
in
your
the
jig
jigging
better.
style?
Actually, I jig fast also with this, but yeah lah. I mean, lighter jig, you are actually just using your wrist, and for actually when you are jigging heavier, you rely a bit more on your arms. Yeah. So the difference is actually your which muscle you use to actually work the jig. So basically, for me, right, I also do fast, but in a way, it's not as fast as how I use like the jig lah. But for the heavier ones, you actually do need to use a bit of effort because the jig weight is also heavy. It's in ratio to the smaller setup. So ratio to ratio, I make it in a way similar. If you lower down the ratio, right, actually this when you're actually playing this, it's like how's it called? It's a similar way of working. Yeah.
But this one will feel more of the jig movement lah. Can still more better than the smaller one.
Yeah, for me, I feel because of the heavy weight, right, a bit more sensitivity, right? Yeah, and because of the column of water. Okay, so basically, right, to the column of water, right. Okay, to the column of water, if the shallower the water, right, the more sensitive it is. So usually, like when you are playing like very deep waters, right, the how's it called? The sensitivity actually drops quite a lot. So that's when you tend to actually increase your jig weight or lower down your line poundage. Yeah. So but if you lower down your line poundage, then you risk the chance of you bursting the fish. Yeah. But okay, so now after this, right, I want to share about what's it called, the own discipline in actually checking out your line. So basically, right, when I short jig, right, throughout my shore jigging phase, I actually realized, you know, sometimes you cast, then the jig just pop, then you see a jig fly, then drop into the water, and your line is gone and all this sort of stuff. It's not due to oh, the line is bad. Actually, all line I tried. I mean, maybe some lah. No, but in a way, okay, some are meant to take shot, some are not meant to take shot, and all these sort of things. Actually, it depends on the company. But the thing is, whenever I fish around the reefs in Singapore, I'll actually do a test. You know, every time I burst one time, right? Like my braided line came back only, right? I'll tend to actually check throughout my line. I'll actually pull out some, then actually I'll cut it off. I'll retie. Then when I retie, if the strike actually weakens, right? When you do a slight pull, right, you'll burst already. So I mean to the drag that you actually setting, you actually pull. Then when you burst, right, then you know throughout the line, right, in between, right, there's some damage. So you actually have to pull until to a point, right? Sometimes I kill about 20 meters of line, 10, 20 meters, cut, pull. Because when you're cutting out far, right, that's like maybe like 70, 60 meters. So throughout that 60 and 70 meters, throughout there, right, you know, sometimes the reef is bulging up, right? Your line is actually rubbing okay, imagine the reef, this is your line. So it's actually rubbing on the reef. When you're actually jigging, it's actually damaging the reef. I mean, not damaging the reef, damaging the line. So basically your line weakens when you're actually fishing lah. So that's when I actually pull out 10, 20 meters. That's why you see every time I fish, right, I actually every week I change one spool of line. So basically you have to actually keep changing line to actually keep the standard of line. So if you hit a fish, right, sometimes you know, with that type of, because when you play along, right, then the line weakens, right, then you should actually loosen the drag for that you know, for that weakened line. But nobody will know how much poundage that the line already weakened. So you actually, for me, I'll just cut off all the weakened line, yeah, to prevent me from hitting fish and actually losing. It's all about discipline lah. Sometimes we see your line fray, never mind, continue casting. Then when you hit, boom, then burst. Yeah, so for me, it's all about having the discipline to actually cut off some of the line and all this sort of stuff. Yeah,
you have to do your due diligence to actually check your line because it's so hard to get a bite here in Singapore already. So imagine you really hit one time, pull one, then you lose a fish. It's really eye-water. So really, checking your line is super important. I would say super important.
So we just share a bit information about Gamakatsu hooks and how you should use and why should you use on Gamakatsu hooks itself.
I'll share a bit on the Gamakatsu hooks on the Assist. Okay, so this is the one that I like to use. Okay, Assist 59. Okay, later this will be given out to you guys to actually try. Okay, it's corrosion resistance. Okay, and it's chemically sharpened. Yeah. Alright, so far I've used Gamakatsu hooks, right, for my fishing. It has never failed me. Usually the 1/0, right, okay, I'll use for my 40 gram jigs. Then usually the size 1 I'll use for my 28 grams lah. Okay, so this will be given out to you guys later. And yeah, okay, so the Kevlar is soft. What I like about this, right, is because the Kevlar is soft and it rolls very freely. Yeah.
You guys know Sabiki, right? Sabiki, and then we have this flat thing. So apparently a Gamakatsu is one of the first few. We have this flat thing, and I've been to a lot of micro jigging offshore. This thing is super effective for micro jigging. And this fish skin, right? Dry fish skin. So I think only they have this type of acid soup. And I remember a few years ago when people started to play micro jigging, right? This thing run out. You can't actually buy, and then we have to go to Amazon to stock up. Then apparently now they are back. So you want to find out more, can get from them.